Welcome back to Switch to Linux. This is another edition of Distro Wars, and today we're going to pit two supposedly user-friendly distributions against one another. And when we do that, we are going to have a look at the variety of different themings and options and things like this. Of course, we were talking about Zorin OS versus Linux Mint. I did go with the standard flagships for both, so we are doing the Zorin OS. It's the Zorin OS core, which is running on GNOME, versus Linux Mint running on Cinnamon. So, of course, Zorin OS website, they, of course, have the most modern website of the two. It's just this constantly moving site, which is actually a little annoying when I was sitting over here. But Linux Mint also has annoying constant cycles on stuff. It's moving too fast. We also have here a variety of things. Like this looks like an iPad. It was running Zorin. Here's like a Mac running Zorin. So they're kind of showing you all these different computers running Zorin OS on it. I'm not sure if there is a good device that's a tablet like that you can run it on. If there is, let me know. If not, false advertising? I don't know. So you can download Zorin OS. If you wanted to go over to the download link, you have a couple options. You can pay for an Ultimate Edition. The Ultimate Edition is going to give you a few applications that are all free. You just need to hunt them down. Some of them are already in the Ubuntu repositories. Some of them will need to be downloaded from other deb packages. The real thing that you're getting that's different with Zorin OS Ultimate is you're getting a lot more theming options. Just a lot more customizability to it if you want to pay for it. If you do not want to pay for it, you can grab the Core Essentials, which is a GNOME version, or there is a Zorin Lite, which has very similar theming, but it's running XFCE instead. So, of course, those two are free. We are using our Zorin OS Core here, right, based on GNOME. Now, out of the box, the installation of these are very similar. Automatically, Linux Mint gets the points on data collection. Zorin added some tracking in there. Every hour, it would track the IP address and a few other things. Now, it said it dropped the IP address, but they were basically doing what is called a Zorin census. And I believe I'm gonna go ahead and say I think I misspoke there. The IP address hits and it's dropped from the server almost immediately. I think that's the way it goes. But still, they were pinging back to Zorin's servers once an hour, and it would actually give a unique computer ID number that could be used to identify that computer, and it would also give the number count of the number of users that had accounts on that computer. And that caused a little bit of a stink, especially since it really wasn't disclosed anywhere. I ended up finding it buried on the website somewhere. I think somebody might have emailed me that. I did a big video about it. A few other people, I know QuidSub did a video about it, and Zorin came back and they disclosed it better. And then in a more recent version, so as of 15.2, it might have been 15.1, but I think it was 15.2, on the installer, you can opt out. So it's an opt out, not an opt in. Zorin has that. To contrast this, Linux Mint has always stood against any form of data collection. So there's no form of data collection inside of Linux Mint whatsoever. They're basically saying, we don't care. And that's exactly the type of distribution I like, which is why Linux Mint has consistently gotten my win since I've switched to Linux, why I've consistently run Linux Mint. Okay, so Linux Mint, of course, their website's not nearly as cool and fancy, but I don't really care. It's easy enough to navigate. We do have the options, 3 desktop options: Cinnamon, Mate, and XFCE. You also have, if you don't want to go with an Ubuntu version, we do have a Linux Mint Debian Edition version as well. This one's version is based on Debian 9. There is a new version in beta based on Debian 10. These have the 32 and 64-bit. Linux Mint Debian Edition 4 is going to have a 16 and 32-bit. The current 19.3 has 16, 32, and 64-bit. I think I said 16 there. That's 32 and 64. 16-bit, man. These are awesome computers. But anyway, it is predicted that the next version, because they're based on 18 or on the 2004 package base, I think, the next version of Linux Mint may not have 32-bit versions, but the Linux Mint Debian Edition will. So you can go ahead and grab these guys wherever your various distro styles happen happen to be. And what we are actually going to do is we're going to start in with ZorinOS. So I went ahead and installed these guys. And when I got these guys installed, I did not even boot them up. I really wanted to show you the best experience. So you can see there the very nice Zorin startup screen. So Zorin does have a lot more flashiness and a lot more modern look and feel out of the box. So now we have our Zorin login screen, very customized, GDM there. I think it's GDM. There we go. I remember which one was it. I was able to use my short testing password, which is definitely not 123. And that's a big deal I'm going to start looking at, because there are some distros that's like, that's too short of a password. You're not allowed to use that. Like Solus does that. Solus will not allow me to use even a weak password, which if I'm doing a testing system like this on a virtual machine, I don't care if the password's 123. Okay, I really don't. I'm sorry, the password's not 123. But anyway, so here we are landing on the Zorin Desktop. Now, I thought that the Zorin Desktop would give me a welcome screen. And I remember when I reviewed it last that I thought it actually did before. And then I said, well, it doesn't actually give us that welcome screen anymore, apparently. Some people are saying it was still there, just not triggering for some reason. We're just going to go with no, it does not give us a welcome screen. So out of the box, this is what we get. So it does have a more modern Windowsy type feel. I load something up, everything's just pinned to the desktop here. It is, you can very clearly see it's just GNOME with a panel on the bottom instead of on the top, and the panel's there. You can always tell GNOME because it has this one single task manager here that's, to me, has always felt a little bit clunky. All right, so here you can see it's kind of like a pinned to the taskbar effect, kind of like our modern look and feel. All right, you can kind of see the theming here. It's light theming. We do have a very nice theme editor in here. I think it's called Zorin. Okay, Zorin Appearance. Let's go ahead and boot up Zorin Appearance. You can see this is what happens when it wants to do an update. So it's basically it's just using the Ubuntu updater. It's kind of giving you a pop-up right in the middle of the screen. You can remind you later. You can install now. You can do some settings. We are not going to go ahead and push any updates. I'm just going to show you the process. You just click the button here. You'll have to enter your password. All right, so here we have, one of the nice things about Zorin is we have a layout switcher. So this guy here is more of your more older Windows traditional with a launch bar here. You can see each time you click this guy down here, we get a separate instance of our Firefox. We have a panel down here that gives us our tasks, more standard, more traditional. And here's what that menu there looks like. This is, of course, the one we started on. Same menu there. And you do actually have a more Mac type layout. Not a true Mac layout, but it does have kind of a Mac-like layout. So here's what this is going to look like. Okay, so you do have the options as to which way you want to go. You can go ahead and drop your various items on the desktop like that. So that's kind of cool. I like my network servers there as well. You can put the title bars, minimize, maximize on the left or the right. And you can enable or disable animations depending on your take. Your theming, this is just your basic accent colors. So this will control a lot of the variety of things between the accents. Now we have a light version, a dark version, and we do have a middle ground version. So the middle ground version will go sunset to sunrise. It's going to ping an IP address to get a location to get the approximate sunrise and sunset from your IP address, or you can set it manually. This was another one of the changes in response to some of the videos that I did and others did. They changed this to set it to default to manual instead of default asking for location services like you can see here. So I like the fact that they have definitely responded to the criticism in positive ways. I'm always going to point that out. Whoops, I hit the wrong button. No, let me go back. I actually think that the dark is too dark on Zorin. I think that is the case. All right, so we do have application settings. One of the challenges that I found is if you change these guys to something else, it's very difficult to get them back. I think if you just go up and maybe change all the accent settings, it does revert back. Here's your basic fonts, and here's your panel. You can put the panel on the top or on the bottom. You can adjust the size of it. You like here, so nice and easy from a single settings manual. We can set the calendar. You can show the date. You can show the seconds on the clock. That's going to be related to what's on the calendar there. Taskbar position. So where's the taskbar, center or left? You can group applications or not group the applications. You can lock the taskbar or not lock it. So there are some nice settings inside the Zorin customizer. All right, let's see what else we have. We have Zorin Connect. This is actually to connect a smartphone. That's nice. Right-clicking works. They do give us, out of the box, they give us the ability to create writer documents. That is a fine part of the system that Mint will not do, but it is definitely worth pointing out. A little bit more user-friendly out of the box. And we're going to go ahead and just have a look at the backgrounds that are available to this guy here. All right, so of course it is using the GNOME settings. So we do have a variety of backgrounds to choose from here. So, ooh, that's, whoa. Sorry for your blindness, everybody. That, a little bright there. All right. So we do have a couple different wallpapers. If you're looking for a lot of wallpapers to use, that looks cool, but I bet it's going to be too bright again. Yeah, that is a really cool wallpaper, but it's definitely too bright. Let's go to the darker guy. Let's go to the dark side. All right. So there is what we have as far as our layouts there. We can't do a whole lot of other in the middle stuff with the theming, but for some people that's okay. Some people like the theming, some people don't. All right, as far as applications installed by default, we don't have a whole massive amount of stuff. Here's your accessories. We have just the basic stuff with weathers, calculator, maps, to-do lists. Under games, we do have just a couple generic basic games there. Internet, we have Romana, we have Firefox. Keep on missing graphics there. We have GIMP, Libre Draw, Shotwell, Simple Scan, Document Viewer. Under Office, we have Evolution. Ooh, bonus points. I love Evolution, my favorite Linux email client. Good to see distros that do that. Not a whole lot of them do these days, but it does. Unless, did I install that? No, I didn't actually do anything to these. I was trying to think because I built a Arch system with ArchFi yesterday, so I can't remember which one did I do that on. Anyway. So we do have the full suite of LibreOffice, so Writer, Impress, Draw, Calc bases for databasing. Sound and video, Brasaro, we have Rhythmbox videos, PTV, and Cheese, and basic system tools. Nothing out of the ordinary. Of course, we do have a startup application, the two Zorin specific applications, and a couple of utilities. So let's look at our resource usage. Of course, we should probably do that at the first, but we're going to do it later anyway. So we're running on about 1.5 gigs of RAM, which is pretty heavy because, yeah, Zorin is GNOME, and GNOME is pretty system heavy. Can kind of see that the wallpaper doesn't blend well with this particular background. I might actually have to go in and if I were to go in and maybe change this to a darker background or something, the panel at least might look better. But man, the windows are really hard to read. That's a very difficult to read theming in there. So for whatever that happens to be worth. All right, so there is Zorin. We are going to come back and look at Linux Mint next. All right, so you can see the Linux Mint login is, or the booting time is quite a bit quicker, but it's not quite as elegant. It did flash for a very, very brief second, the little Linux Mint logo. That's what it actually will do. And when we go ahead and boot this up, I think this will not boot full screen just because of the version of virtual machine I'm using. So, oh, it will boot for full screen. Sweet. Okay. It didn't usually do that. Okay, so here when we boot up Linux Mint, we are greeted with a welcome screen. This is one of the things that makes Linux Mint so much nicer is it gives you some steps if this is your first time booting into the system. So with the screen here, we can set up snapshots. This is very similar to your old Windows Restore. So this is going to make a backup of your functioning system without your files. Okay, we have the driver manager will detect if there are any proprietary drivers that need to be installed to make things work better. So if you have a Broadcom driver on a laptop, then you're going to want to look at that. The update manager is how you do your updates. And then we have a desktop layout. So the modern is kind of based on the more modern way. Things are pinned to the bottom. You don't have a list of open applications in the taskbar. You can actually go back to the old traditional layout here. And the traditional layout is going to go back to a more traditional platform here where we have our icons. Each one of them will open up, and of course you can see a list of the open windows at the bottom. This is the method that I like. I do actually like how the modern system looks as far as overall style. So what I actually do is I start with the modern, and I actually have a video about how to make the modern behave like the old way. So that's actually what I do with it. You can go into your system settings here. You can install software. I forgot to look at that on Zorin. It just uses I believe it's the GNOME Software Center, which is, in my opinion, one of the worst software centers there is. Okay, we do have a list for the documentation, any help notes, and if you would like to help contribute. Now, as far as updates are running, the updates do not pop up in your face. They indicate by this little shield down here. So the shield with the blue icon in the middle means that there is an update to install. If it is green with a check mark, it means the system is up to date. And if it has a red X, it means it can't connect to the internet or something. So when you go ahead and launch this guy up, we have the update manager. And this is, to me, one of the best update managers in the Linux world. So we do have the ability to switch to local mirrors. By default, it's grabbing the core over from a UK server, so I might want to move to something local. We're not going to do that. This update, we're going to go ahead and do this just so I can show you how this system works here. We're going to enter my super secret password that's definitely not 123. And what it's going to do here is just going to go ahead and get a update to the manager itself. That's going to refresh itself. And then it's going to show us that there's going to be some packages that need to be updated in our system. Well, it is doing that. Never mind, it's already done. So now that we have this, you can actually see what is being updated. You can go ahead and turn off or turn on an update. If you right-click an update, you can ignore just this current update, or you can ignore all future updates for this package. So there was a case a while back when there was an application that used to be required to run some YouTube stuff back in the day. It was a version of Flash that one particular version would break it. And so I just went into my system, right-click, and ignore the updates for this patch, and no big deal. If an update does actually cause a problem, you can actually roll it back in this system. But there's how your updates work. You also can change your Linux kernel over here. I am an advocate of not changing your Linux kernel unless there is a specific reason to do that. Right now we are running the 5.3.2. I might update this up, but you can see it's end of life. I might actually want to roll up to the current run, or I might want to roll back to something that is like this, someone that's supported until April of 2023. So I might actually want to change this one around if I were running this in a system or not. Okay. Now, the other thing that we have now, this is a new feature of Linux Mint 19.3. We have this this warning indicator here, says there's some problems with the system. This is going to give us a few items here. And you can go through and examine these and tell it to ignore it or whatever else. So in this case, language packs. Yeah, I don't really care. Shush. All right, we're going to ignore that problem. Setting the root password. Or set up a system restore. I don't generally use system restore on Linux because it's so much faster to just rebuild your distro from an ISO image and then drop your home partition back on. So I don't actually bother with restore points personally. And I don't really want to do that. Here is all of the system information. Very useful if you need to do something custom to have a list like this. And if you want to, you can send crash reports out to Pastebin or whatever else. You can upload this if you're having a bug, but Linux Mint is very, very adamant about privacy, so they never do any of that type of stuff automatically. All right, we did notice here that there's no fancy create a new Word document, new spreadsheet document, whatever else in here. That's something Zorin does that's nice. That's actually easy to do. You just go into your home folder, go into your templates, and you can just drop a writer document, a spreadsheet document, presentation document in here, and that'll actually work. I think I have videos about how to do that. Desktop backgrounds, Linux Mint is probably one of the best in the industry as far as having backgrounds. We do have some nice Linux Minty ones. They're nice and pretty, but then we have so many amazing desktop pictures, just from anything from city scenes to nature scenes, anything like this. So here's a nice nature-y scene. So if you're just looking for some basic background images on your system, you can go ahead and just grab these guys. I think I'm running this on one of my systems. I'm pretty sure I am on my one VirtualBox. There's a car there. And these are the latest wallpapers. So they've always given you just some of the most tremendous art in the Linux world to put on your system. So very nice artwork there. All right, as far as your theming, we don't have a very nice basic theme customizer just to change your accent colors. But what we do have inside of our system settings is we do have our themes. And inside of our themes, we can change from a style which is a little bit darker on the top, a little bit lighter on the top. So there's options that we have. We also can just pick a color theming here. So the last system we went with some red, so we can go with red. There's also a darker red. You can kind of see what the difference is with those icons there. So if you want like the more material design, do the Y versions. If you want more of a skeuomorphic, do the X versions. Same thing with the controls. We do have this red here. We also have this red, which will give us a little bit lighter there. And we do have a darker red theme here. So if you do want the standard red accents, you can actually just go ahead and change your themes here. But there's other stuff in the middle as well that you can pick from. So you have a lot of options as far as how your system theming is going to work. Here's, by the way, this one looks like. So there's a couple different options there. There is, by the way, if you want dark, you can see that this dark is a lot more friendly than the Zorin OS's dark. If we're going to go with the reds, let's just go ahead and do this one now. All right, you can actually add new themes just by coming over here. We're not going to update the cache, but click yes, and it's going to give you a whole lot of themes that are downloadable from online. And then we have a few other options inside of here, including changing the size of the system scroll bars. Okay, we have other options inside of here. We can get to our backgrounds over here. There's a variety of just different settings and setups. Hardware, installing printers, Wacom tablets work very well out of the box on this, as I've used them in the past. There's the driver manager, login window management, users and groups, things like that. All right, so as far as our software installed, we do have a few more system tools. Some people might consider this a little bit more bloated. Some people might just really like this. I personally like it that it has its USB stick formatters and writers. Redshift will reduce blue light late at night. I'm a denier of blue light causing you to stay up, but you know, anyway, it's there. All right, they have dropped GIMP in the latest version at 19.3. They've dropped GIMP for drawing. I know how to use GIMP in Photoshop so well. I tried to use drawing once. I can't figure it out, people. I can't figure it out. But it's supposed to be a much easier drawing program, more akin to Paint and less akin to, see, like this. Like, I don't understand. All right, never mind. But anyway, it's supposed to be a little bit easier to use, maybe for a person that doesn't know how to use the advanced software it is. With Pix, Simple Scan, Internet, we have Thunderbird, we have Hex Chat Transmission, and Firefox, of course. We do have our full suite of LibreOffice here. We have our calendar. Celluloid has replaced the old player in this current version of Linux Mint. It's just a little bit more lightweight to do a better job of handling videos. We have Rhythmbox for our audio, and then our basic administration things. Let's go ahead and have a look at our system monitor here. And this guy here is running at under 1 gig, so quite a bit more RAM friendly at least. All of these preferences here are all of the things that are in the settings panel. I did not show you the software management on Zorin. My apologies for that. That uses the basic software center. This one here uses the Linux Mint software store, which has, I really think this is one of the best ones out there. We can search for any application. We can also install Flatpaks, and it does tell you what is the source of the application. So we can see Dropboxes here, and if we scroll down, we can see that we should be able to see where the package source is from. Version, I'm guessing that this one. Okay, yeah, this was from the repo. So let's have a look, for example, at Kdenlive. This is one where they have a version in the repo and they have a version as a Flatpak. So you can kind of pick whichever one you would like to do. This guy here it'll tell you which the version number is and the source. So you can see here it is 1712, which is from the repository. And the FlatHub is going to be the latest version, and I believe that puts it at version 19 maybe. So it gathers the information, so 19.12.3. And I like 17 better than 19, so that's why I like Linux Mint, that I can use older versions of things. I also can add some PPAs to have stuff in the middle if I want to. So there is Linux Mint. Both of these are pretty good systems. Overall, I personally am a fan of Linux Mint over Zorin. I think it just runs a little bit smoother. It's just more, I don't want to use the word technical because they're both very easy to figure out, but it has a little bit more of the old school capabilities that I really like in my system. The ability to easily change the themes, the ability to install new themes that aren't just, hey, change the overall window color from burning my eyes out to I can't see anything with 6 different accent colors to any variety of things in between, even creating whole custom themes, as I have an entire video on. So taken together, I overall like Linux Mint a little bit better. I don't think anybody that's followed this channel sees that as a surprise to me. There are some good reasons for Zorin. I think that Zorin is in and of itself a pretty good distribution. I don't like that they want to collect data out of the box, as little as it is. But at the same time, the ability to easy switch between your more classic Windows, your more modern Windows, and a more Mac type feel is certainly an intriguing prospect for many people. So that's kind of what my thoughts are. So let me know your thoughts about these two in the comments down below.